Could you imagine if that's how that worked and you had to have perfect pitch in order to speak Chinese? That would actually be pretty cool. Like a language that is tonal, but in a musical sense. A pitch accented language to an extreme of communicating a different thing based on the notes in an octave. That would be pretty bananas. So like every single possible word has so many different meanings depending on what note you sing it on. Maybe even more if you also assume that every speaker, or I guess singer, has more than 2 octaves that they can sing with. That'd be pretty crazy. You could communicate so much in so few words that way. Sing in more languages. Yes, actually, I really want to, because with you may remember I did Desafinado recently, which is a Brazilian Portuguese bossa nova track. I did not know any Portuguese at all, and I did a really quick crash course on the phonemic inventory a week before the karaoke stream so that I could sing that song because I really wanted to. And at some point in the future, I really want to do a set list where that is every single song. You know, like every single song is a language that I don't speak and that I don't know how to sing in. And then I can give you my botched attempt at singing it, even though I am unpracticed. Because I don't know, ultimately, even if I don't do it perfectly, even if my pronunciation is off, even if my phrasing is weird, I know that it means something to the people that speak it and don't often hear it in some of their favorite things. So I do want to try and do more in the future. Yeah. Naturally, there is no way that I'm going to get every single language in the world. So there's a very strong chance that I'll never sing or say anything in your language, but I would like to try at some point. I don't have nearly enough time to learn languages, but the least I can do is to learn the building blocks of a number of languages. Learning the basics of a language is super easy. Like how to read a language out loud without knowing what any of the words mean. That's easy. I feel like anybody can do that if they know how it works. It just takes a little practice. Pronunciation in Spanish is good. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Now that one I practiced a lot. I'm rusty with Spanish because it's been a long time since I studied it, but when I did study it, I studied it really actively for a number of years. And I think at the time I last spoke it actively, I was pretty good. Now the most I can do is pronounce it. I can't really speak fluidly. I can't form sentences quickly enough to talk out loud. I can understand a good chunk of what people say to me now, but not nearly as much as I could then. And I've forgotten a lot of the vocabulary, so I can't read as much as I used to either. I used to be able to read and write whatever I wanted, though. I tested really high, specifically for reading and writing. Portuguese was nice. Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot to me. Except not too much, because again, I only had a week of effort in that one. Portuguese is confusing for me. I'm going to be honest, because I studied Spanish. Because Portuguese looks like Spanish in writing, but every single reference that I found for how it's spoken out loud, it doesn't sound like Spanish at all. It sounds so different. It sounds like if Spanish and French had a baby. That's what it sounds like to me. And so whenever I would look at it, especially when I was reading over the lyrics while singing it, there were some words where I would see it and I'd be like, oh, I know this word. This is this word in Spanish. And I'd subconsciously pronounce it that way, even knowing that it's not supposed to be said that way. Spench. Spench is pretty good. Yeah, Brazilian Portuguese is also very different from Portuguese of Portugal, like European Portuguese. Just like how like España, like speaking Castilian Spanish of Europe is very, very different than pretty much any Spanish that you'll find in Central or South America. And then like even within Central and South America, Spanish is very, very different depending on the country. Pronunciation is actually pretty consistent across most of South America, I will say. But what's really, really different is the slang. Something that is like a super casual slang term for like your brother, like, oh, hey, bro, in one Spanish-speaking country. You'll go 1,000 miles north, and that is the most devastating, evil, disgusting slur you could call another person. It is kind of crazy. And kind of tying it back to what started this whole linguistics conversation, I understand that it's actually the same with Chinese. Because China, it covers such a wide area, physically speaking, geographically speaking. You know, it's such a huge place with so many people. So the Chinese in one part of China is going to sound very, very different than the Chinese in another part. It's really, really interesting how that happens. Like how a language will be spoken and you'll have a lot of common ground, but also a lot of really important differences. I always thought that was really cool. And we get that in English too. We get that in English too. Even within the United States, like just one country. This is one country, the United States. Even within the states, even across different cities within a single state, the accents will be totally different. And the slang will be totally different. It's crazy. It's just absolutely bananas to me. It's like impossible to know everything. Pop versus soda. Yeah, little things like that. There are little things like pop and soda, or sneakers versus tennis shoes, or cart versus buggy, or I think there are a bunch of different words for that little road on the side of the highway. What about French? I don't speak any French, so I have very little frame of reference, but I can probably guess with confidence that Canadian French and European French are very different, because both like northeastern Canada and the country of France, they both speak French. But Quebecois, that is not the same thing as European Français. They're so different. Eh? Even within Quebec, it sounds different. Oh, wow. And within France, Parisian is different than countryside. Yeah, honestly, that might be true of any country, honestly. When it comes to like urban versus rural, like a really developed city compared to a really rural countryside, I think the people will speak differently regardless of the country and regardless of the language. Even with like the British accent, and I say that in air quotes, a lot of people that don't live in England perceive it as one super accent, but it's actually very complicated and very different. Like there are so many different ones that are like close to each other, but still very distinct. I think some even within just the city of London. Accents are really cool. I'd like to learn a new accent at some point. Sociolect, dialect, idiolect. Idiolect is a pretty fun word. I like that one. That's one of my favorite words, actually, idiolect. I find that my idiolect is quite epic. Which ones am I interested in? I would love to learn like a Scottish or an Irish accent. Like to be able to do one convincingly. That'd be so fun to pull out. Oh, it's so funny. That's like the only phrase that I can think of whenever I think of those accents. Oh, I love this show. I haven't cursed since April of last year. April of last year was when the Among Us stream happened, I think. And I was like, oh, I gotta get my act in check. I gotta be careful. So since then, I've made the active effort not to. And I don't think I've slipped. Don't I say hell a lot? I think saying hell by itself is fine. It's specifically in certain contexts where it turns into a curse adjacent word. I just choose not to. I prefer not to. Because I think if I don't curse and I make the choice not to, it gives it so much more ammunition and power when I do decide to do it, you know? It hits 10 times harder. I'm accumulating a spirit bomb with every passing day that I don't swear. I'm building up a spirit bomb. And eventually I'm gonna drop it. And it'll hit so hard. Genuinely, it is such a normal thing to curse and say swear words. I just personally want to take it as seriously as I can because I feel like being in this position comes with a considerable amount of influence. And there's a considerable number of people that are learning English either through my content or to enjoy my content. So I don't want to teach somebody a bunch of inappropriate stuff. Pronunciation is good. Thank you. I actually used to slur my speech a lot when I was like younger. And more than that, I used to stutter a lot. So I had to put in extra effort to speak in a way that was easier for people to understand a bit later on. So it makes me really happy that people don't have a hard time following the things that I'm saying.